Hey guys, tonight we slip on our sandals, tighten our leather belts, and step directly into the dirt-packed boots of a Roman legionary, on the very edge of battle. It's your life, and you're waking up under the faintest shimmer of stars, inside a Roman military encampment, cold enough that your breath fogs the air like a ghost escaping your lips. The horns blast. You jolt up on your straw-stuffed mattress, still half-tangled in your wool blanket. Everything aches. Your legs from yesterday's drills. Your lower back from sleeping on a plank that somehow manages to have both splinters and a slope. Outside your tent, the camp groans to life like a groggy beast. You hear the scuff of sandals, the scrape of metal, someone coughing up whatever they drank last night. Probably spoiled Posca, vinegary wine diluted with water that tastes like someone washed their socks in it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always love seeing our little nighttime army spread across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You rise fast because if you don't, your centurion might make an example out of you. The rules are simple out here: look alive, stay clean, stay sharp, and don't die, preferably in that order. Your comrades are stretching stiff limbs, coughing into the dirt, and strapping on their tunics as the faintest blush of light kisses the horizon. You rub sleep out of your eyes with hands still crusted with last night's campfire soot. Your breath is visible in the chill, and you blink up at the early morning sky. It's still mostly black, with one pale streak in the east that promises either warmth or doom, depending on what the generals have planned. Someone passes by holding a chamber pot like it's a sacred offering. Another guy's tunic is on backwards, and he doesn't notice. You do, and smirk, but you don't say anything. You need that laugh tucked in your chest. You'll want it later. This is no peaceful rustic morning. You're surrounded by disciplined chaos. 8 men to a tent, each tent part of a contubernium. 10 contubernia in a century. 60 centuries in a legion. That's around 5,000 souls all waking up together in this engineered patchwork of leather, dust, and Latin grumbling. The horn sounds again, and that means formation in 10. You yank on your tunic, wool, itchy, and way too short. Your knees are permanently calloused. You cinch your belt, where your pugio, your short dagger, rests on one side and a few coins jangle on the other. Not enough coins, you think. Never enough. You step outside. Campfire smoke lingers like lazy ghosts, and the air stinks of men, horses, oil, and dirt. There's something oddly comforting about it now, like your nose has given up trying to rebel. Then there's the palisade, rows of sharpened stakes enclosing the camp like ribs around a belly. Beyond that, the world. Possibly barbarians. Definitely bad weather. Maybe both. The centurions bark across the camp. The calls bounce from tent to tent, passed along by weary voices until it becomes a low chant of names, orders, insults. There's a soothing rhythm to it if you listen long enough, like waves breaking on a shore, except each wave wants you to hold a spear and run straight at someone who hates your empire. You form up. You and your 7 brothers in smell stand shoulder to shoulder, sandals crunching the gravel. The camp's main avenue is bustling now. Horses snort and clomp past, carrying officers with nicer cloaks than you'll ever own. One of them rides a horse that has golden shoes. Yes, actual gilded horseshoes. Not because it's useful. Just to flex. Historians still argue whether Roman legionaries truly woke before dawn by bugle or if some just pretended they didn't hear it until the centurion physically kicked their tent. Someone passes out morning rations. Flat barley cakes, half burnt, half raw, and a weak brew of warm water and wine, the kind that makes your teeth fuzzy. It's not a breakfast of champions, but it's breakfast. You take bites between shivering, trying not to think about how it tastes like damp scroll parchment. There's a fringe theory that some legionaries tried to sweeten their mush with honey stolen from enemy farms the night before, but the smarter ones waited until after battle, when looting was technically legal. You scarf it down while standing. You learned long ago not to sit during morning chow unless you want a boot in your ribs from a passing officer. Around you, the men complain about the cold, the food, the lack of wine, and the fact that one guy's been wearing the same tunic for 3 weeks straight. His nickname is now Stinkonius. He embraces it. Probably because he can't smell anymore. You tug on your gladii, those heavy Roman sandals with iron hobnails. They've rubbed your feet raw, and they'll do it again today. You don't bother lacing them tightly yet. That comes later, when it really matters. Your tent mate, Gaius, mutters, "Feel that? Sky's changing. There's tension in the air." You don't answer, but you do feel it too. Not fear yet, but something tight in your chest. A drumbeat that hasn't started but already lives under your skin. You glance at the standard, your legion's proud eagle. It stands tall at the center of camp, guarded even now, even at dawn. If it falls in battle, the entire legion is dishonored. If you survive and the eagle doesn't, you may as well switch sides and start herding goats in Gaul. The day is just beginning, and already it feels heavy with fate. You don't know who you'll be by the time the sun sets, if the sun sets on you at all. But for now, you're upright, semi-fed, and vaguely warm, which is about as good as it gets for a Roman legionary before battle. Your fingers fumble with the leather straps of your baldric as you kneel beside your tent, trying to wrangle your gear into something that doesn't look like it was packed by a goat. The gladius hangs awkwardly on your right side. Romans wear their swords on the right, unlike those flashy Greeks. It's a short, stubby thing designed for stabbing, not slicing. Efficient. Brutal. Much like your schedule today. You roll your shoulders and shake out the stiffness. The fire pit outside your contubernium is still smoldering, the embers glowing faintly red like eyes half-lidded with sleep. Someone, probably old Marcus, manages to burn the porridge again. It sticks to the pot in a blackened crust, crackling softly while a thin wisp of smoke drifts lazily up into the morning air. You decide to skip it. Charcoal barley might build character, but you've got enough of that already. Instead, you take the hard biscuit handed to you, a dry, floury brick the consistency of a roof tile, and try not to chip a tooth. You gnaw it down with slow determination. Some of the newer recruits are trying to soften theirs in their posca. One drops the biscuit and watches it float. You all stare at it. No one says anything. Too early for disappointment. The camp is alive now. You hear the steady rhythm of soldiers shaking out their gear, metal on metal clinks, the creak of worn leather, and the occasional groan of someone trying to squeeze into armor that definitely fit better last season. You're no different. Your Larica segmentata, that distinctive banded armor, is heavier than you remember. Maybe you shrank. Maybe it grew. Or maybe you've just been sleeping on one side too long. As you adjust your straps, a grizzled voice behind you barks, "Try not to die with crooked shoulder plates, eh?" It's your centurion's voice, but it's not your centurion. He's just making rounds. Unmistakable tone, though. All bark, all bite. It's part motivational speech, part insult stand up. You don't take it personally. Unless you want to do push-ups until the sun explodes. You glance around. Some soldiers are oiling their weapons with a greasy rag that smells like old olives. Others squat in the dirt, rubbing their helmets with handfuls of sand. You admire the ritual. There's something calming about the rhythm of it all. One guy is methodically tying charms, bits of bone and bronze, to his scabbard. Superstition? Absolutely. Effective? Maybe. Can't hurt. Historians still argue whether Roman soldiers truly believed in these battlefield charms or just did it because their buddies did. One fringe theory suggests charms were assigned by personality type, like ancient zodiac signs but with more sharp objects. You head toward the communal water barrel, dipping in your hands and splashing your face. It's bone-chillingly cold. Shocks you awake harder than a cavalry charge. You take a sip, then step back just in time to avoid another soldier who's decided now is the perfect moment to wash his armpits. At least he's trying. Breakfast winds down as the sun finally begins its slow crawl above the horizon. The shadows stretch across camp like claws. The horizon's painted in washed-out gold and bruised purple. It's pretty, if you ignore the stink of latrines wafting from the edge of camp. Speaking of which, it's time. You walk toward the trench system, holding your breath and your dignity. Roman latrines are a marvel of engineering and a horror of scent. A long bench with neat holes carved in a row, each with a wooden stick and sponge tool resting in a vinegar-filled pot nearby. Yes, everyone shares the same cleaning tool. And no, there is no good time to be the last one to use it. You squat, do your business, and try not to think about it too hard. A soldier across from you starts humming. It's an old marching tune. Catchy. You hum back. That's about as intimate as things get out here. Fringe fact: archaeologists once found coins in Roman latrines. Some think they were dropped accidentally. Others say they were offerings to the saw gods. Either way, you don't go treasure hunting down there. Not worth the tetanus. Back at the tent, you find one of your mates trying to strap on his greaves backward. You help him twist them around. He grins at you with that goofy "thanks for not letting me get mocked" face. These moments matter. It's not about the empire, or Rome, or glory. It's about making sure the guy next to you has his shin guards on the right way before you both run screaming into a hail of javelins. You do one last check on your own gear. Helmet, dented but sturdy. Plumes only for officers today. You're rocking the simple model. Gladius, sharp enough to split firewood or sternums. Scutum, your giant curved shield, thick enough to stop arrows, and wide enough to use as a dinner table if things get quiet. And they never get quiet. You test the straps. Everything's tight. You give your shield a little nod. Like a handshake before a job interview. You've done this before. But there's always that quiet whisper of dread, threading itself through your confidence. Someone sneezes violently, and you hear a loud salve echo from 5 different directions. Romans take greetings and blessings seriously. No one wants to go into battle with a cursed sinus infection. You're ready now. As ready as anyone can be. Your unit forms up again, slightly tighter this time. Everyone smells like leather, sweat, and impending doom. You exchange a few sarcastic jabs, just enough to loosen the tension. One guy does a ridiculous impression of your centurion. It's flawless. You all laugh, quietly. Not enough to get punished, but just enough to remember you're still human. Then the trumpets sound again. Louder now. Clearer. It means drills. Because if you're going to die horribly tomorrow, by Jupiter, you're going to die in perfect formation. You pivot sharply with your shield raised and Gladius out, the early morning sun now casting long beams across the packed dirt of the campus, the open drill ground near the center of the encampment. Your breath puffs visibly in the cool air, even though you're already sweating under your helmet. Welcome to morning drills, where every muscle is sore, every command is shouted, and your life depends on doing everything exactly right, repeatedly. Advance. Raise. Strike. Back step. Again. It's like a violent, choreographed dance, but instead of roses and ruffles, you've got 45 pounds of iron strapped to your torso and a man yelling at you in Latin about your foot placement. You're not even fighting yet, but your biceps are already burning. Gladius training is all about control. You don't slash like some wild Gaul, Roman stab. Quick, efficient, center mass. It's about being close enough to smell what the enemy had for lunch, and then puncturing something important before he does it to you. To your right, Decimus drops his stance for half a heartbeat too long and gets a swift whack on the helmet from the training officer's wooden stick. Your shield's for blocking, not shade, the officer barks. Unless you're planning to nap on the field, princess. Yes, princess. Roman sarcasm cuts deeper than their steel. You adjust your grip. Hands sweaty, shoulders aching, legs braced. Again. You go through the motions again and again. Thrust, shield, step, repeat. Your body knows what to do now. It's done it hundreds of times. The trick is keeping it sharp without slipping into autopilot. Autopilot gets you a spear in the ribs. Now comes formation training. You and your contubernium bunch up into a testudo, the tortoise. Shields raise up overhead and lock in front. It's cramped, it's heavy, and someone's shield smells like it's been used as a table for fish sauce. You try not to breathe too deeply. The centurion walks on top of the formation. Yes, on top, just to make sure it holds. He stomps around up there like a one-man earthquake, yelling insults and admiration in the same breath. Historians still argue whether testudo formations were used this often in actual battle, or whether they were mostly for siege scenarios. Either way, your spine is currently carrying 80% of your centurion's body weight, and you don't care about historical accuracy. Once you're released, you practically fall out of formation and collapse onto the dirt. But your rest doesn't last long. There's still spear practice. Your pilum, the throwing spear, is heavy and awkward, designed to bend on impact so the enemy can't throw it back. You line up, wait for the command, and hurl it toward the straw target dummy. It wobbles in the air, then thunks into the post beside the dummy. Not bad. You're no champion, but it's better than Gaius, who throws his so wide it nearly nails a poor camp assistant carrying firewood. I meant to scare him, he says casually. Sure. Gaius. You catch your breath near the shade of the granary and sip watered wine from your flask. The aftertaste of rust and cheap amphora lingers on your tongue. Someone passes around dates. Sweet, sticky relief. A few figs, too, for the lucky ones. Then the trumpets signal latrine duty. It's your unit's turn to clean out the trench. Again. The Roman military is famously hygienic, for its time. Latrines are deep, wide ditches with flowing water beneath, and sponges on sticks soaking in vinegar jars. But even with all that engineering genius, the whole thing still smells like a dying goat married a compost heap. You grab a shovel and try to think about literally anything else. Fringe fact: some Roman soldiers allegedly used powdered crocodile dung as sun protection. Whether it worked or just made them smell worse than the latrine is still up for debate. Back at the trench, you trade complaints with the others. You know, Lucius says, if we survive the battle, I'm opening a tavern. In Rome? Someone asks. No. Anywhere but Rome. You all nod. Fair. After cleanup, you trudge toward the weapons shed to do the least glorious task of the morning, cleaning and repairing your gear. Some men do it with reverence, others with boredom, a few with the panic of those who only now realize their helmet strap is one good sneeze away from snapping. You sit cross-legged, working the edge of your gladius with a whetstone, the rhythmic soothing in a way. You take pride in it. This blade has served you well. You remember the first time you used it, how it stuck in the enemy's shield and wouldn't come out. You've learned better since then. Stab, twist, pull. It's become second nature. You polish your helmet until you can almost see your face, mud-splattered, unshaven, eyes slightly too wide. Looking good, you mutter. No one believes you. Not even you. Across from you, two younger recruits are debating whether to tie their sandals tighter now or wait until after the midday meal. The answer is always after. Otherwise you risk blisters before the real marching begins. You mend a leather strap, needle in hand, trying not to poke yourself. A task as ancient as war itself. And still somehow, every time, someone bleeds. Today, that someone is Flavius. He yelps as the awl slips. Everyone claps sarcastically. "There's your sacrifice to Mars," someone jokes. You laugh. It's dark humor, sure, but it's real. You're not just preparing armor. You're preparing for what might be your last day above the dirt. Your centurion walks by. He pauses, glances at your kit, and gives you the rarest reward in the Roman military, a single approving nod. No words. Just that. You tuck it away like a coin in your tunic pocket. You'll remember it. Probably longer than you'll remember this particular battle. As midday approaches, the drills wind down. The sun is now high enough to sweat through your tunic, and your stomach growls in anticipation of the upcoming break. But your mind still churns, circling that unspoken truth. Soon, someone will give the order. You will form up. You will march. You will fight. But not yet. Your centurion arrives with all the subtlety of a thunderclap. One moment you're casually rewrapping a strap around your scutum, trying to pretend your back doesn't feel like it's aged 3 decades overnight, and the next, there's a broad shadow falling over you, a voice that could scare crows off a corpse, and a sandaled foot kicking the dirt inches from your own. On your feet, piglets. You rise fast. Everyone does. Even the guys who are mid-snack or mid-story suddenly look like upright models of Roman virtue. Your centurion, let's call him Titus, has that effect. He's a wiry, sun-leathered man whose face seems to have been carved out of sandstone, and whose left ear looks like it's been chewed on by history itself. You're not sure how old he is. You've heard stories. Some say he fought at the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest and lived. Others claim he used to be an actor until someone stabbed him with a prop sword. The truth? Lost somewhere between myth and his scars. Who's still got loose straps? He growls, walking the line. You're checked. Your neighbor's checked. Titus stops in front of young Publius, who's standing stiffly at attention, helmet askew. Fix it, Titus mutters. Publius hesitates. Bad call. In half a heartbeat, the centurion reaches forward, adjusts the helmet himself, with a good, hard bonk, and steps back. There. Now your brains are protected. All 3 of them. Laughter ripples down the line. Even Publius grins, rubbing his scalp. Titus has a cruel edge, but is not cruel without reason. His bark usually masks some oddly specific wisdom. Like how he once stopped a rookie from sharpening his sword backward. Or when he spotted an arrow defect from 20 feet away and saved half the squad from potential skewering. He stalks in front of you now, hands behind his back like a grumpy philosopher. You know what happens tomorrow, boys. His voice is quieter now, and everyone leans in. Tomorrow, we face men who would rather die than be Romans. That's fine. We're happy to oblige. A few nervous chuckles. You've trained. You've bled. Some of you've cried, though you think I didn't see. Spoiler, I did. You glance at Gaius. Gaius glances at you. Definitely cried when he stepped on a hot nail last week. I don't care about your fears. You can carry them like a pouch of coins. Just don't drop it in the middle of battle. If you die, Titus continues, die tight, die loud, and make someone's mother regret giving birth. A pause. Then a grin spreads across his face, cracked and mischievous. Also, if any of you survive and loot something good, remember your centurion likes olives, silver rings, and tall women. Another ripple of laughter. The tension breaks just a little. That's his job. Not just to bark orders, but to give you just enough confidence to walk straight into the jaws of death while humming a tune. Historians still debate the emotional role of centurions. Were they brutal disciplinarians or surrogate father figures? In your case, it's both. Titus will rip your ear off and then hand it back with a wink. "Form up," he commands, and the group snaps together like a well-oiled machine, mostly. You run another quick mental checklist. Gladius secure. Pugio sharp. Helmet not lopsided. Breath uneven, but still present. Today's about readiness, Titus says. Tomorrow's about survival. If I catch one of you with dull blades or soft sandals, I swear by Mars' flaming armpits, you'll be on trench duty until your bones grow moss. You believe him. You all believe him. He walks away, muttering something about finding the optio, his second in command, and checking on the new recruits. You watch him go, shoulders squared, stride like a man who wrestled the Tiber River once and won. You think about what he said. Make someone's mother regret giving birth. It's a grim thought, but it works. You feel steadier now. You feel part of something. A moving piece in a monstrous machine that's been oiled by centuries of conquest and precision. After he's gone, the conversation among the men softens. You sit again, breathing a little easier, and start scraping old pitch off your shield with a dull knife. It flakes like tree bark. Across from you, Lucius is retelling his favorite Titus story. The time he allegedly got so fed up with lazy marching that he walked backward for a full mile, yelling encouragements at the column while juggling his helmet. You're pretty sure the story grows more dramatic every time. Your gear pile grows more orderly. Each item polished, prepped, and lined up like a little army of its own. It's part ritual, part superstition. You'd never admit it out loud, but there's comfort in getting it just right. A clean gladius feels luckier. A tight boot strap might shave seconds off your reflexes. Your hands remember what your nerves try to forget. You reach down and tighten the strap across your chest, running a thumb along the ridge of your scabbard. There are notches there, some accidental, some not. One you carved yourself after your first real battle. You told yourself it was to remember the day. But honestly, you forgot the date. What you remember is the blood, the heat, the taste of sand in your mouth, the scream you weren't sure came from you. A shout snaps you out of the memory. Someone found a dead snake under a pile of kindling. Half the unit is now debating whether it's a good omen or a terrible one. The argument escalates, as they always do, until someone starts drawing it in the dirt like it's a sacred sign. You walk away before you're pulled into a snake-based theological debate. You know better. Omens are best ignored. Except when they aren't. Near the officers' quarters, a banner is being checked and rethreaded. Your legion's proud standard, topped with a golden eagle. A standard bearer stands nearby, solemn as a statue. You've seen him cry exactly once, when someone knocked the pole into the mud. Not during battle. Not from wounds. But from mud. That's the kind of reverence the standard commands. It's not just a flag. It's the heart of the legion. If it falls, morale breaks. If it's captured, history forgets your name. Fringe fact: there's a Roman tale of a legion refusing to retreat because they couldn't carry the standard with them. They died to the last man. The standard was recovered, cleaned, reused. You don't know if it's true, but it feels true. The sun climbs higher now. Shadows shorten. The mood shifts again, lighter, but only because the next part of the day brings a chance to rest your arms and your feet, if not your mind. The drills are over. The gear is checked. The centurion is satisfied, for now. All that's left to do is wait. You sit cross-legged on the warm dirt, your back pressed against a barrel of salted fish that smells like it lost a bet with the sun. The morning drills are over. The centurion has vanished into the officer's tent to yell at someone more important than you. And for the first time since dawn, you get to just exist. You let your arms dangle. Your gladius is sheathed, your shield leaning beside you like a sleepy guard dog. Around the camp, a low buzz of idle activity hums, the sound of 5,000 soldiers pretending they're not just waiting to die. Across from you, Lucius is gingerly threading a new leather strap through the top of his greave. He tore it during drills, and now he's treating the repair like it's delicate surgery. You laugh, he mutters without looking up. But if this comes loose tomorrow and I trip, I'm haunting you first. You don't laugh. Because honestly, that does sound like something that would happen. Around you, the men fall into their downtime routines. One guy is rubbing olive oil into his helmet to prevent rust. Another is carving crude etchings into his scutum, stick figures fighting lions. Not a bad likeness, actually. A few tents down, someone starts humming that old marching tune again. It drifts lazily over the camp like smoke. Familiar. Comforting. A beat you can march, eat, and die to. And then, of course, there's the gossip. You hear about Cassius, a soldier says too loudly. Says he's got a girl in every province. Another snorts. Yeah, and a rash in half of them. You all chuckle. Gossip in the Legion is less about truth and more about survival. You need something to talk about between sharpening your sword and relacing your sandals for the 5th time. And the stories grow with every telling. You contribute a theory that the cook's assistant is actually an ex-gladiator hiding from his past. Nobody believes you, but they nod like they want to believe. It's more fun that way. One guy whispers he saw the legate speaking to a messenger in hushed tones last night. Could be a night raid. Or a secret alliance. More likely it was just a supply issue. But hey, everyone loves a good conspiracy before lunch. Historians still argue whether Roman legions tolerated this level of casual gossip, or if it was officially discouraged. Based on your current circle of dirt-stained chatterboxes, you're leaning toward tolerated so long as it didn't involve stabbing. You take a moment to inspect your sandals. The leather is cracking. You've tried to patch them with scrap and wax twine, but they'll never be the same. You rub some oil into them, muttering under your breath like it'll help. Come on, just one more march. Then you can fall apart. Your stomach growls. Someone nearby passes around some olives. You grab 2 before the bowl vanishes. You chew slowly, savoring the burst of brine like it's a delicacy from Caesar's own villa. A light breeze picks up, carrying the scent of dust, sweat, and something faintly floral. Wild herbs growing beyond the camp walls. You close your eyes for a second, just enough to pretend you're not in a military camp on the eve of a possible massacre. It's nice. Peaceful. And then someone sneezes so hard they almost knock over the olive bowl. Blessings are muttered in 3 languages, including one that might be made up. You lean over your small leather kit and begin mending a frayed strap. Your fingers work quickly. This is your 3rd time fixing this exact piece of gear. If it breaks again, you'll have to borrow someone else's. Which means bartering, begging, or bribery. None of which you're proud of, but all of which you're prepared for. Fringe tidbit. Some Roman soldiers used to tuck lucky charms, bits of metal, carved bones, tiny statues of gods, into their belts or sandals. You've got a tiny Mars figurine tucked in your kit bag. You tell everyone it's just for show, but you rub its head before every battle. Just in case. You pause, wiping sweat from your brow, and glance up. There's a young soldier, barely out of his teens, sitting by himself, legs curled up, staring into the dirt. You don't know his name. Might be from the newest recruits. You can tell by the way his gear still shines too brightly. like it hasn't seen the worst of the world yet. You nod toward him. First battle. He looks up, startled, and nods slowly. You consider what to say. You want to tell him it'll be fine. That he'll fight bravely. That he'll live. But instead you say, tighten your belt before the charge. Keeps you from soiling yourself. He laughs. Nervously. But laughs. That's enough. You hand him a fig from your pouch and move on. Later, one of your tent mates, Gaius, tries to flirt with the quartermaster's assistant while accidentally returning a dented breastplate. She raises an eyebrow so high it nearly reaches her helmet. Gaius stammers something about sun glare. She says nothing, takes the armor, and walks off. We award him 0 points. The chatter rolls on. It helps. Keeps the panic at bay. At one point, someone brings out a flute. A real one. Probably looted. Probably illegal. He plays a slow, mournful tune that hushes the nearby conversations. The melody slips through the camp like a lullaby for men who've forgotten what quiet sounds like. Historians debate whether personal instruments were tolerated in Roman camps. Some say no, strict discipline. Others believe that between the battles and the drills, commanders knew to allow just enough softness to keep their soldiers sane. You'd believe either version. But in this moment, it's hard to imagine anyone being cruel enough to silence that song. You glance around at your brothers in arms. Some asleep in the shade. Some repairing, laughing, whispering about girls they miss or the vineyards they'll buy once this is all over. Some just watching the horizon, like maybe they'll spot the future creeping over the hills. And you wonder, not for the first time, what tomorrow will look like, and whether you'll still be part of it. But for now, there's stitching to finish, and jokes to hear, and olives to steal, and the sun still hangs warm above, pretending nothing bad ever happens in daylight. The sunlight slants differently now, thicker and golden, casting long shadows through the camp as if the gods themselves are watching. You notice it while walking toward the ritual platform near the center, a wooden altar just tall enough to give your anxiety a view. It's time for the priests to slice open a sheep and tell you whether tomorrow's battle will end in glory, or just blood and regret. You're not exactly a spiritual guy. You've mumbled to household gods, sure. Flicked coins into fountains. Said a quick thanks, Jupiter, after a particularly lucky dice throw. But augury? Entrails? That's a whole other level of mystery meat. You join the growing circle of men watching the ritual. The haruspices, the Roman priests skilled in the noble art of liver reading, are already preparing. One is sharpening a sacrificial blade with unsettling enthusiasm. Another is muttering prayers in Old Latin that no one here fully understands anymore. And in the middle of it all, a sheep tied to a stake, calmly chewing grass like it hasn't figured out it's about to become the world's most reluctant weather report. I hate this part, Lucius mutters beside you. Liver says good, we march. Liver says bad, we still march. He has a point. Historians still argue whether the Roman military truly delayed battle based on bad omens or if it was more of a PR thing, to keep morale high and the gods happy on paper. The priest steps forward. The sheep stops chewing. There's a moment of silence that feels like the whole camp is holding its breath. Then, slash. The sheep goes still, and the priest digs in with practiced hands, pulling out steaming entrails and placing them on a bronze platter. Men lean in. You lean in. Not because you understand it, but because pretending you do makes you feel slightly less at the mercy of fate. The priest examines the liver carefully, tilting it toward the sun. Then he announces something in a booming voice. The omens are favorable. A collective breath releases. Men start smiling. Someone claps. Another mutters, "Thank the gods." You're still staring at the liver. It looks, liver Y. Fringe tidbit. The Etruscans, long before the Romans, used a clay model of a sheep liver called the liver of Piacenza to teach haruspices how to read divine signals. Kind of like flashcards. 4 guts. As the ritual winds down, the priests sprinkle wine on the fire and burn laurel branches until the air smells like smoke and vinegar. You shift your feet, trying not to inhale too deeply. Something about that combination always makes your eyes water. The next step is the auspices, watching the flight of birds. Yes, birds. You move to another open section of the camp where the augur, a different type of priest with very serious eyebrows, stands with a staff and a bunch of nervous-looking crows in cages. He releases them one by one, watching their flight paths like a field general studying a map. One bird loops gracefully to the east, another flaps awkwardly in circles, and a third just kind of flops out and sits on a log. "That's me tomorrow," someone quips. The augur declares the bird signs mixed but not ominous, which sounds like the divine equivalent of a shrug. "I'll take it," you mutter. From a distance, the officers nod, satisfied. Everyone acts like this moment has sealed your fate in gold leaf. But inside, you know the truth. No amount of birdwatching or sheep guts can change what's coming. You turn and walk back toward your tent, catching sight of the eagle standard once more. The sun glints off its wings. For a heartbeat, it doesn't look like gold at all, but like fire. You blink, and it's back to metal. Just a trick of light. Or maybe Mars blinking. On your way back, you pass a small cluster of soldiers building a makeshift shrine. It's modest, just a flat rock with a few offerings, coins, dried flowers, a scrap of a tunic tied like a ribbon. They're lighting candles made from fat and twine. You stop. Reach into your pouch. Pull out a small bronze figurine, the same Mars charm you rubbed earlier. You set it beside the others. Quietly. The soldiers nod to you. No words. Just shared understanding. You return to your tent. The shadows are long now. The warmth of the day is bleeding out, leaving the air tinged with that cool stillness that always seems to come right before something big. Someone's started humming again. A slow tune. You realize it's a prayer song, one of those half-forgotten ones from childhood, the kind you sang when storms came too loud and the lightning seemed too close. You sit, watching the last of the sun slide behind the hills, and wonder, do the gods really care who wins tomorrow? Maybe. Maybe not. But it feels better to believe they do. The camp settles into quiet. Not silence. There's always noise. A few horses snort in their pens. You hear distant clanking from a stubborn shield being repaired. And, of course, the ever-present snoring from someone who's mastered the art of napping anywhere. You lie back, head resting on your rolled cloak, eyes tracing the darkening sky. Someone mutters near the fire, "Better a good omen than none at all." Another replies, "Better armor than either." You smile. You close your eyes for just a moment. And for that moment, the world feels still, balanced. Like the gods themselves are leaning over the camp, deciding what stories to write tomorrow. But no matter what they choose, victory, loss, or something messier, you'll be there. With your liver-blessed luck, your slightly bent pilum, and a song still caught in the back of your throat. Dawn creeps in like a cautious thief, slipping through cracks in your tent with pale fingers. You wake to the chill, the sky still smeared with deep purples and bruised blues, the camp quiet except for the occasional snort of a restless horse. You swing your legs out, feet landing on cold, dusty ground. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders, wincing as it catches on the dents of your armor. The ritual of waking up before battle feels more like being dragged into a dream you never wanted to have. Outside, the camp is stirring. The muffled clatter of leather, the low murmur of soldiers pulling on their gear. You hear the distant clanging of the smiths, working at full tilt to patch weapons and armor that probably won't hold by midday. You trudge to the latrines, passing tents where men are already gathering, faces drawn tight with a mix of fatigue and focus. The smell of wood smoke and dirt fills the air, mingling with that faint metallic tang, either blood or fear, you're not sure which yet. As you line up for your morning ration, the cook eyes you warily. Today's menu, a thick porridge of barley with a smear of honey. Not exactly a feast, but enough to keep your stomach from turning inside out. You sit near the fire, spooning the gritty mixture into your mouth, each bite a reminder of how little you've eaten properly in weeks. Lucius joins you, cheeks stuffed with porridge, eyes scanning the horizon like a hawk sizing up prey. He whispers, "It's coming." You nod, neither of you needing to say more. You glance over the camp. Officers barking orders, men checking equipment, horses stamping their feet impatiently. The sun is starting to burn away the shadows, promising heat, dust, and the kind of dryness that makes every breath feel like sandpaper. Your helmet feels heavier this morning. Maybe it's the weight of the day. Or maybe you're just tired. You take a deep breath and strap it on, the leather chin guard biting into your jaw. You adjust your belt, double-check your pilum, and grip your shield, the scutum, a shield you've grown to trust more than most friends. Nearby, the Legion's standard-bearer holds the eagle high. Its golden wings catch the light, a symbol of Rome's might, and a beacon that draws every eye. It reminds you why you're here, even if some days you wonder if the eagle's wings are heavy enough to carry all this fear. Historians still argue whether the eagle's standard functioned more as a rallying point or a spiritual talisman for the legionaries. Whatever its role, today it feels like both. The centurion approaches, his eyes sharp beneath his helmet. He gives a curt nod. No speeches. No pep talk. Just business. You like it that way. The last thing you need is a long-winded reminder of your mortality. You line up with your cohort, muscles taut like drawn bows. The world narrows to the feel of your armor against skin, the grip of your sword, the beat of your own heart. You hear the faint rustle of the enemy preparing across the valley, a distant, ominous shuffle. The trumpet sounds, a clear, piercing note slicing through the morning air. It's a call to arms, the prelude to chaos. You steady yourself, adjusting your stance. The smell of dust and sweat fills your nostrils. You taste the grit on your tongue. You glance to your left. A young recruit, barely out of training, swallows hard, eyes wide as saucers. You offer a quick smile. Keep your shield up and your head down. He nods, as if you've just given him the secret to immortality. The drums begin to beat, a deep, steady rhythm that shakes the ground beneath your boots. It syncs with the pounding of your heart, a primal call that echoes through the ages. You take a breath, savoring the moment. The calm before the storm. Fringe tidbit. Some soldiers believed that the drumbeat itself could rattle the enemy's courage, that rhythm was a weapon as deadly as any sword. You're not sure if it's true, but you'd like to think so. The officer raises his hand. The line tightens. The world holds its breath. You grip your sword, your shield, and your fear. And then, the charge begins. The world tilts as you surge forward, the ground pounding beneath your sandals like a wild drumbeat echoing inside your chest. The clash isn't distant anymore. It's right there, thick and raw and alive. Metal clangs, screams slice the air, and the smell of sweat, blood, and dust wraps around you like a suffocating cloak. Your shield presses against the enemy's, a solid wall of wood and iron, and your gladius feels like an extension of your arm. You thrust, parry, and twist, every movement drilled into muscle memory but fueled now by adrenaline and sheer will. Somewhere nearby, a horn blasts a chaotic call, cutting through the noise. You hear a shout, maybe your centurion or just some desperate soldier, but you can't focus on words. The only thing you know is the rhythm of the fight. Strike, block, step, breathe. Your heart pounds so loud it drowns out everything else. You see a man fall to your right, a flash of red against the dirt, and the next moment, a spear grazes your shield with a sharp clang. You stagger back, grip tightening, and press forward again. Pain blossoms in your shoulder where a glancing blow landed. You grit your teeth, willing it away. You can't afford to slow down. Not now. Historians still argue whether Roman soldiers fought primarily in tight formations for defense, or if individuals broke ranks more often than we think during battles. Either way, your life depends on sticking close. You catch a glimpse of the eagle standard a few yards ahead, held high by the standard-bearer. That golden bird seems to glow in the chaos, a beacon you lock onto like a compass. Somewhere near the front, the enemy lets out a wild scream, a mix of rage and desperation. You swing your sword low, catching a leg and sending a soldier sprawling. He curses, struggles, but your pilum finds its mark, another enemy out of the fight. The clang of weapons rings out, sparks flying as swords and shields collide. You feel the burn in your arms and the sting of sweat in your eyes. The sun, now high, beats down mercilessly, turning the battlefield into a furnace. You fight with grim determination, every movement purposeful. You remember the stories about how Roman soldiers sometimes smeared crocodile dung on their skin as a kind of sunscreen and insect repellent. You're pretty sure that's a myth, but in moments like this, it feels like any help would be welcome. Suddenly, a heavy boot crashes into your side. You stumble, nearly falling. A hand grabs your shoulder, Lucius, pulling you back into formation. "Hold the line," he shouts, voice hoarse but fierce. You plant your feet, shield up, and prepare for the next wave. Time becomes elastic. Seconds stretch and snap, each breath a small victory. The battle rages, endless and unforgiving. Then, from somewhere deep in the chaos, you hear the command, "Advance." You push forward, driven by something raw and unstoppable. And in that moment, you're not just a soldier, you're part of something bigger. A living, breathing force forged by sweat, steel, and sheer stubbornness. The clash goes on. And so do you. Your muscles scream in protest as the battle drags on. The initial adrenaline surge fades, replaced by a grinding exhaustion that weighs down every limb. Sweat soaks your tunic, mingling with grime and blood, yours and others. The sun now scorches the sky, relentless and unforgiving. You blink past the chaos, spotting familiar faces among the melee. Lucius, grim but unbowed, hacking through foes with grim efficiency. Gaius is nearby, his lucky toe bone charm swinging wildly as he fights, the only sign of superstition in this organized madness. Around you, the formation begins to blur. The tight, disciplined lines you trained in are breaking down, shifting into something more primal, survival. The enemy presses hard, their battle cries rising above the din like wild animals. You fight not just with sword and shield, but with every ounce of will you can summon. You stumble over a fallen comrade. For a heartbeat, your stomach twists. You barely have time to mourn before a spear jabbers your shield's edge, and you're forced to parry again. There's no room for hesitation here. Historians still argue whether the Romans favored relentless forward pressure or a more flexible approach during battles. Judging by the chaos, maybe the truth is somewhere in the messy middle. The sound of trumpets calls out from your left flank, and you glimpse the arrival of fresh troops, your comrades rallying to hold the line. Relief surges briefly, but it's tempered by the knowledge that you'll be on your feet for hours yet. You catch sight of the enemy commander, a hulking figure bedecked in elaborate armor, shouting orders with fierce intensity. You lock eyes for a moment, and it feels like the world narrows to just the two of you. Without thinking, you lunge forward, catching him off guard. Your gladius finds its mark in a gap between his armor plates. He stumbles, rage flashing in his eyes. A cheer rises from your side. But there's no time to save a victory. Another wave of foes crashes against you like a tidal wave. You grit your teeth and raise your shield, ready to meet them head-on. Nearby, you hear Lucius laugh, a brief, wild sound that doesn't quite fit but somehow fits perfectly. "Still breathing," he shouts. You nod, fighting the urge to smile. Because as brutal as this is, as terrifying as it is, you're still here. Still fighting. Still Roman. The battle grinds on, and your world narrows even further, to the clang of metal, the heaving bodies, the roar of breath and pain. The sun climbs higher, turning the ground to dust that settles in every crack and crevice of your armor, filling your lungs with grit that sticks like sandpaper. The dry heat makes your skin itch beneath the layers of leather and metal, and your tongue feels swollen and thick. You're no longer fighting for glory or honor. Now it's purely about survival. Every step forward is a gamble, every breath a gift, and the thought of your home flickers somewhere deep inside, a momentary flicker of warmth in the cold chaos. The ground beneath you is churned to mud and dust, mixed with the crushed bodies of men and horses alike, the earth soaked dark with blood and sweat. Your arms tremble, heavy as lead from the relentless tension and exhaustion. You try to steady your grip on your gladius, though it feels more like a twig than the trusted extension of your body it was earlier. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes and making it hard to see clearly. You wipe it away on your dirty sleeve, but it's no use. The dust in the air just turns everything into a gritty haze. Somewhere to your left, you hear a grunt, followed by a sickening crunch, someone's broken shield, maybe a shattered bone. You don't have time to look. Instead, your eyes catch a glint, a discarded gladius lying in the dirt. You lunge for it with your free hand, grateful for any weapon to keep you alive a second longer. Holding two swords feels awkward and desperate, but what choice do you have? Lucius stumbles past you, blood smeared across his cheek, eyes wild but alive. He gives you a breathless grin, the kind that says, "Well, this isn't exactly what I imagined when I signed up for the legions." You try to chuckle, but it comes out as a wheeze. The shared exhaustion somehow strengthens your bond, like you're both adrift on the same sinking ship. The enemy's war banner wavers ahead, dipping low as if it's tired or broken. You can't tell if it's real hope or wishful thinking, but the faintest surge of optimism flares in your chest. Maybe this nightmare is tipping in your favor. Suddenly, a deep, guttural roar tears through the din. Your head snaps up just in time to see cavalry charging the enemy's flank, horses thundering like living thunderbolts. Clouds of dust billow as their hooves smash into the ground, scattering foes like leaves before a storm. The impact shatters the enemy's line like glass under a hammer, men breaking ranks, stumbling, and retreating in confusion. You seize the moment, pushing forward with renewed fury, your sword slicing through the disorganized opposition. The taste of victory feels sweet but elusive, mixed with the bitter knowledge that the fight isn't over yet. In the thick of it, you notice a strange detail. Some of the Roman cavalry wear bright feathers tucked into their helmets. You recall a fringe belief that those feathers made them faster, or at least more terrifying. Whether true or not, the sight of those plumes flying wildly adds a surreal flair to the brutal chaos. Your legs threaten to give out, muscles burning with exhaustion, but you force yourself to stay upright. You stumble, catch yourself on a shield, and push on, heart hammering in your chest. The pain and fatigue are relentless, gnawing away at your resolve. Historians still debate just how crucial cavalry was in Roman battles. Some argue it was the decisive force, others say infantry was always king. Right now, tangled in the dirt and blood, none of that matters. What matters is staying alive. You glance around to see comrades fighting just as fiercely, some limping, some yelling, all refusing to yield. The raw, human desperation on their faces tells you this isn't about tactics or glory anymore. It's about raw survival, brotherhood, and sheer stubbornness. You catch Lucius again, this time leaning against a battered shield, breathing hard but grinning like a man who just won a coin toss with death. "Still breathing," he rasps. You nod, your own smile a ragged thing but genuine. Because after hours of hell, the thunder of hooves, the clang of steel, the roar of pain and rage, you're still here. Still fighting. Still Roman. And when the dust finally settles, you'll carry these scars and stories forever. The clamor begins to fade, replaced by an eerie hush that presses in like the calm before a storm you hope never comes. You stagger through the shattered remnants of the battlefield, muscles trembling beneath the weight of your armor and the exhaustion that feels like it's sinking you into the earth. The air is thick with the acrid scent of smoke, sweat, and the unmistakable metallic tang of blood, your own and others. The groans of the wounded ripple across the field, a haunting soundtrack to the aftermath. You trudge forward, boots crunching on broken shields and discarded weapons, the battlefield littered with the silent testimony of the violence that just took place. In the distance, the Eagle Standard still stands tall, held aloft by a soldier whose face is smeared with dirt and tears. That golden symbol, a beacon throughout the chaos, now seems almost sacred, a reminder of what you fought for and what you must protect. Your throat is raw and parched, your body aching in ways you didn't know possible. You reach into your pouch and pull out a piece of hard bread, tasting the dry crumbs as if they were ambrosia. Water is scarce, and every precious drop feels like a gift from the gods. You remember hearing that Roman soldiers sometimes carried vinegar mixed with water, a sour tonic believed to cleanse and revitalize. Historians still debate how widespread this practice was, but right now, you'd welcome anything to soothe your parched mouth. Around you, the remaining soldiers begin to regroup, their faces a mix of relief, exhaustion, and haunted memories. Some tend to the wounded with practiced efficiency, binding wounds with strips of cloth torn from tunics. Others gather in tight clusters, sharing whispered prayers or trying to make sense of what just happened. You spot the centurion making his way through the ranks, his presence commanding even in the midst of weariness. He nods at you, a silent acknowledgement of your endurance and valor. In moments like this, the rigid discipline and hierarchy of the Legion feels less like a burden and more like a lifeline, a structure holding together a group of men who have faced death and lived to see another day. There's a strange comfort in the camaraderie, the shared hardship that binds you to these men. You catch Lucius sitting on a fallen log, staring at his blooded hands. He looks up and offers a weak smile. "We made it," he says, voice barely above a whisper. You nod, the weight of the day settling deep into your bones. The battle was won, but at a cost that will linger long after the sun sets. As the sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the scarred earth, you find a quiet moment to breathe, to feel the pulse of life still thrumming within you. You think of home, of the simple pleasures waiting for you after this nightmare. A warm meal, a clean bed, the soft murmur of familiar voices. And though the night ahead promises little rest, you close your eyes briefly and let the silence wash over you. For now, you are alive. And that is enough. The evening air cools against your sweat-drenched skin, a brief reprieve from the day's furnace. Around you, the camp stirs to life, a muted hive of weary soldiers repairing gear, sharpening weapons, and sharing quiet conversations tinged with relief and lingering fear. The flicker of campfires casts shifting shadows across faces marked by exhaustion and something deeper, something like disbelief that they survived. You find a spot near one of the fires, the warmth licking at your chilled limbs. Your hands shake slightly as you pull off your helmet, the weight of it lifting but revealing a scalp slick with sweat and dirt. You rub at the grime, feeling the sting of small cuts and bruises beneath. The taste of dust and iron lingers in your mouth, stubbornly refusing to fade. A fellow legionary settles beside you, offering a chunk of hard cheese and stale bread. You accept, grateful for the small kindness in this harsh world. He tells a tired joke about the crocodile dung sunscreen you'd heard earlier, a fringe tale that somehow persists in campfire chatter despite historian skepticism. You laugh softly, the sound foreign but welcome. Around the perimeter, guards stand watch, eyes sharp despite their own fatigue. The discipline of the Legion doesn't rest, even when bodies scream for it. You remind yourself of the discipline that kept you alive today, the drills, the formations, the unwavering focus on order amid chaos. Historians still argue whether such strict discipline was a strength or a vulnerability. Did it make Roman soldiers unstoppable or rigid and predictable? For you, it was the line between life and death. As you nibble on your meager meal, your thoughts drift to the upcoming day. The battle may be over, but the war marches on. Your commanders will demand more marches, more fights, more blood spilled on foreign soil. Sleep teases you, heavy and persistent, but your mind buzzes with fragments of the day's violence. The clash of swords, the cries of comrades, the thunder of cavalry. You wonder who will wake beside you tomorrow, and who will be replaced by silence. Yet, amid the shadows of fatigue and fear, there's a spark of something else, pride. You are part of something vast and ancient, a force that shaped the world. That knowledge steadies you, even as your eyelids grow heavy. With a final sip of water, you settle deeper into the night's embrace, the campfire's glow dimming as stars begin to prick the sky. Tomorrow waits. But for now, you rest. Night deepens, and the camp settles into a restless quiet punctuated only by the occasional murmur of a sentinel's footsteps or the soft crackle of dying embers. You lie on the hard ground, your back against a rough-hewn log, and the ache in your muscles whispers reminders of every thrust, every parry, every desperate sprint through the chaos of battle. The stars above seem cold and indifferent, distant witnesses to your ordeal. You try to focus on the rhythmic breathing of your comrades nearby, the steady rise and fall of strange comfort amid the turmoil inside your mind. Your thoughts swirl, refusing to settle. The images of the day replay with unnerving clarity. The flash of glinting swords, the shouts muffled by adrenaline, the clash of shield against spear, and the faces of men you fought beside, the brave, the scared, the fallen. There's a peculiar kind of silence here, one heavy with what was lost and what still hangs in the balance. You feel the weight of the Legion not just on your shoulders but in your very bones, a legacy of discipline and sacrifice stretching back through centuries. You remember hearing about the Roman practice of decimation, a brutal punishment where 1 in 10 men of a unit could be executed for cowardice or mutiny. It seems almost unimaginable now, but historians still debate how often this actually happened versus how much it served as a threat to keep soldiers in line. It's a stark reminder of the harshness underpinning the order you depend on. As your eyes drift closed, you sense a flicker of movement nearby. A fellow soldier shifts, adjusting his gear, muttering a soft prayer to whichever god might be listening. Superstition and faith mingle in this camp, the flicker of hope that whatever divine forces exist might grant another day of life. You think about the strange rituals some soldiers perform before battle, rubbing crocodile dung on their faces as a kind of sunscreen, or carrying lucky charms like bones or coins. It's a mix of superstition and necessity, a way to wrest control in a world ruled by chaos. You reach into your own pouch and finger the worn piece of pottery you've carried since training days, a small talisman against fear. Despite the creeping exhaustion, your mind resists sleep. Tomorrow promises more marches, more drills, more brutal realities of war. The faces of those lost today haunt the edges of your thoughts, a painful reminder of the price paid for every inch of empire. Yet even as the cold night presses in, you find a sliver of peace, a fragile thread connecting you to something greater than the battlefield, greater than fear or pain. It's the quiet certainty that, for all the blood and hardship, you are part of a story that will echo through history. And so you surrender, at last, to sleep. Dawn creeps over the horizon like a tentative promise, pale light filtering through the lingering mist that clings stubbornly to the scarred earth. You awaken stiff and aching, the shadows of last night's battle still weighing heavily on your body and mind. The air is cooler now, carrying a faint scent of damp grass and the faint murmur of the Legion stirring back to life. You rise slowly, muscles protesting with every movement, and survey the camp. Soldiers move quietly, faces etched with exhaustion but hardened resolve. Some are already tending to equipment, straightening bent helmets, oiling rusted chainmail, and cleaning stained gladii, while others share whispered conversations, perhaps trying to steel themselves for whatever the day will bring. Your own gear feels foreign and heavy after the restless night, every strap and buckle a reminder of the burdens you carry, both physical and emotional. You adjust your cuirass, tighten the leather straps, and sling your scutum over your shoulder. The Legion marches not just on orders but on habit, discipline etched deep into every movement. Today, the battlefield is quieter, but the war is far from over. Reports will come down from commanders. Orders will be given. Perhaps there will be celebrations for victory, or the grim preparation for another fight. You think of the men who didn't wake with you, their absence a hollow ache in the Legion's heart. You recall an odd detail from your readings. Roman soldiers sometimes decorated their helmets with symbols meant to intimidate: boar tusks, wolf pelts, even the scales of a crocodile. It's curious how such fierce adornments stood alongside the strict military discipline, blending superstition and strategy. Historians still argue whether these decorations were more practical or psychological warfare. As you prepare to move out, you glance toward Lucius, who catches your eye and offers a tired but genuine nod. It's a small moment, but it carries the weight of shared survival and brotherhood forged in fire. You step forward, the Legion's orderly lines beginning to form once more, the dust rising in slow, steady plumes. The road ahead is long, uncertain, and unforgiving, but you walk it with the unyielding spirit of a Roman legionary, worn, wounded, but unbroken. And whatever tomorrow brings, you will meet it head-on. Because this is your life now, a life of endurance, courage, and relentless resolve. And you probably won't survive it without that. Now the noise fades. The clash of swords and the pounding of hooves dissolve into a distant memory, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft whisper of the wind. You lie back, feeling the earth steady beneath you, the same earth that once drank the blood of thousands, now cool and calm in the early morning light. Your breath slows, the chaos within settling like silt in still water. The scars on your skin and soul will remain, but for this moment, they are just part of the story. A story of survival and sacrifice, of bonds forged in fire and dust. Close your eyes and let the warmth of the sun, the quiet of the dawn, and the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat lull you into rest. Tomorrow, the march will begin anew, the drums of war will sound again. But for now, you are safe. You are home, at least for a little while. And that is enough.